Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
And as a very special guest, the chair of the Waikanae Community Board, James Westbury. James, good morning and welcome, sir.
Oh, good morning, and what a beautiful sunny day it is too.
Oh, it's fantastic. I was just saying off air, I feel so good today. It's great to have some summer. It's great to have had a day off yesterday. And great to be living in this very, very fortunate part of the world. Well, not so much the place being fortunate, but we're very fortunate to be part of the place, aren't we? It's a terrific area, this one.
Oh, we're in our own little piece of paradise here, I think.
I reckon. Let's talk about some issues. What's happening with the library, James?
Okay, the last community board, we had a paper pulled from council at the last minute with regards to concerns over the detail that was contained in it. It's essentially, or the proposed paper highlighted a process of governance whereby the community board would delegate the responsibility for what the new library or where it might be to another group.
Whoa.
Which seems quite odd.
Did it specify what the other group would be?
It has indeed, which is it's the sort of conversation you have with the board prior to making a public paper. Because the problem is with a paper that's put towards the community board, we can either approve it or send it back.
Yes.
We can't really make changes in the recommendations. So it's about trying to find an appropriate solution before we really have to get to those sorts of circumstances.
And presumably, if this becomes a matter in which submissions are invited, and that's not happening all the time, the community board is left in the position of a normal citizen. All you can do is make submissions and hope
Indeed.
that someone listens.
And that's not why we put our hand up to become locally elected members. You know, we're here to advocate on behalf of our community, and without having sufficient information, we can't do that duty effectively.
So did you just send the paper back, James?
It is indeed. So we're going to be discussing with the Chief Exec about how an appropriate form of governance can be put in place and an acceptable solution so that the community board can both endorse it and critically review any proposal that's put forward and then make a recommendation to council.
Was this in the context of a district plan change?
No, the district plan change at the moment is an interesting one. At the moment, after the local community were concerned about the commercialisation of Waikanae Beach, we are finally going through the process of getting a variation to the proposed district plan. Unfortunately, our actual district plan hasn't been approved.
Yes.
So it's actually called proposed.
Yes.
So just to put it in perspective, you know, the new district plan was put in place or tried to be applied in 2012. Unfortunately, the process by which we engaged our community didn't enable or put in place a number of reasons why people challenged it. So each of those challenges end up having to be resolved, and it can be quite a time-consuming and expensive operation.
Indeed. So you're talking about the commercial, or the what some would say is the commercialisation of Waikanae Beach, and of course this is, as we talked about in the beach bylaw discussion, this is something that most coasters are passionate about.
It's about ensuring that we keep the unique character of the beach.
Yes.
And identify what areas are within that unique character. You know, rather than having curbed and channeling, I should say, through the beach, it's about keeping that old school atmosphere. That creates an environment that we think is so close to what we like.
Well, that's one of the reasons we're here, I guess. So that's
Indeed.
the district plan. We all know frankly, what a disaster that was, and lots of
Indeed.
questions were raised about it, and it has not yet been resolved. But what about sort of overlying legislation? What about the Resource Management Act? Can we go to that kind of legislation that supersedes, has more power than a local district plan?
Well, that's a really interesting one. At the moment, the government's seeking submissions from councils about how the proposed changes to the RMA Act might be put in place. And it's quite interesting. The original draft that was put forward to council removed the ability of local citizens to challenge the consenting process, only to enable them to challenge points of law, which really means that we get quite close to being living in a undemocratic nation, where council's decisions cannot be scrutinised by their local community.
Indeed.
So what's actually happened is that the paper's been returned to staff, and to ensure that the revised draft will enable the public to continue to be able to challenge, decisions made by council.
Right. So
at the end of the day, council doesn't always get it right.
Oh, of course not. I mean, council's a collection of humans. Not all the wisdom in the world lies in that building in Rima Road, and it is something that we all have, obviously, literally a vested interest in. Now, when you say the paper was returned to staff, this is an RMA submission. Was that staff KCDC staff it was returned to?
Indeed. So that was the response was put together to represent the elected members' thoughts. And
yes.
I think some of the views weren't quite representative of what council members were wanting. So there was some pretty robust debate about what would be needed, and I think the overall position at the moment is significantly improved with regards to the submission.
Is that paper public yet or not? I suppose it's not.
I've seen it myself, but I can't say if it's public yet.
Right. Okay. So we better look out for that one. It sounds as if that is something that should be widely discussed, because we love our democracy in New Zealand, don't we?
Indeed. And, it's something, we can't relegate our judicial process to acts and laws where people are unable to challenge legally a decision made by a government or state sector.
Indeed, because they don't, as you've just said, they don't always get it right. James,
Indeed.
Thank you for that. Very thought-provoking, and quite a few things to follow up on there. I thank you for joining us this morning. Enjoy the weekend, sir.
I will indeed, and I hope you do too.
Thank you so much. There we are. That's James Westbury.
106.3 Beach FM.